Formula One's title showdown just got a whole lot more complicated. Max Verstappen took a brilliant pole position. Championship leader Lando Norris is alongside him on the grid. Now, if it finishes how it starts, Norris will be champion. Easy job, right? But John Noble, it's a lot more complicated, and it starts with that run to turn one.
It's it's both a good situation for Lando in terms of he's where he needs to be on the grid. There's no disasters. He's not on Q1, not on Q2. You need these top three perfect. The problem is Max Verstappen's P1, Oscar Piastri's right behind him in P3, and that kind of makes things a little bit more complicated for him tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the very first problem Norris has to face. The run to turn one, the start first and foremost, but then how do you judge the first corner? He said in the press conference, which I was in, that he'll basically make up his mind how aggressive to be about 5 meters before he needs to hit the brakes. It's all about the start. It's all about how much risk does he take against Max, against Oscar. They have less to lose. Max has track position. Oscar needs a big swing in his favour from third on the grid. How does Norris play this one?
I think the decision will be made before that 5 metre point. I think Andrea Stella, we spoke to him this evening, he said his advice to Lando is be prudent tomorrow. Lando doesn't need to take any risks. He doesn't need to go wheel to wheel with Max. All he needs tomorrow is to finish P3. So you go into turn one, you judge the situation around you, and just don't do anything stupid. If Oscar is side by side of you, just let him go. All he needs to do is follow those two home.
All he needs to do, you make it sound so simple. But the problem is, racing drivers drive at their best, perform at their best, driving on instinct. And it's no racing driver's instinct to do a half-baked turn one and back out of it. As soon as you start playing those percentages, you invite a bit of risk. What if he accidentally opens the door to George Russell or one of the other cars that are going to be sniffing around trying to pick up the crumbs when these three potentially come together or trip over each other and have each other to worry about? So it's easy to say be prudent, but if someone sends it, what does that mean? Does he only play prudent with Max and Oscar? Does he then jump out the way? The other problem is, running third, he then puts himself immediately at mercy of losing that one extra position. He'd then have to go the whole Grand Prix without losing one single place. That's a lot to ask.
It is, but equally, being P3 for him is less of a problem than it is for Max. If Max is P3 coming out of turn one, I think the championship's probably done. It's going to be very difficult to come back from that. Piastri, P3 is no good for him. I think Lando has this slight advantage that to get the first problem out of the way, just get through turn one, don't get any broken bodywork.
Well, we're going to get to the role that Max can play in that as well in a bit. But first, we need to move on to the second problem. If he gets out of turn one, if everything's nice and smooth, if he's out of turn one in the lead, second or third, there's a big question mark over how this race will play out if everybody even ran to maximum pace, because what looked like a really strong McLaren Friday on paper was closer. We explained that in our Friday video, but the pendulum has swung a bit towards Red Bull today, and there's a live issue for McLaren to worry about, which is Lando Norris's worst nightmare.
Yeah, this is the one Achilles heel perhaps in the McLaren car. It's front graining. It's when the surface of the tyre, it's like when you have a rubber on the end of a pencil and you're rubbing it on paper and these little balls of rubber come off. It's basically ripping the surface of the tyre off. This season hasn't really been too much of a problem, but here it's come up again. Pirelli suspect it's related to some track resurfacing. They've resurfaced from turn one, exit of turn one, all the way down to turn four. This is a high-speed section. So there's no adhesive grip for the tyres, but there's mechanical grip, and it's causing this stress in the rubber. It was a big problem yesterday. The teams haven't done any high fuel running today, so they're not quite sure where the track evolution is going to go. Is it going to be less of a problem? But McLaren are open-minded about how big an issue it is, and they are the only team that have kept back 2 sets of hard tyres tomorrow. The hard tyre should be less of a problem for graining, and having those 2 tyres gives them the option if it switches to a 2-stop.
Well, I was about to say if it switches to a 2-stop, because if it still ends up being a 1-stop race, having 2 sets of the hards is no benefit, because they'll have to use both of them. And it's a really interesting combination, because one of the things that Mario Isola at Pirelli told us this evening is this track's actually the lowest grip track of the season, the way that Pirelli measures it. Now, other factors, like for example the cold temperatures in Vegas, make those races more lower grip overall. But it's an interesting factor here that, combined with the track surface, the resurfacing that you mentioned, and the flow of the circuit, the the medium speed first corner, then that really fast, stressing the tyre, sweep second and third, but then down to a slower hairpin and then slower corners further around the lap. It's a really horrible mix that means, as you say, when the front slides across the track, or can slide across the track, and you have the tears in the surface, it causes a problem. And because it's so warm here, and because you have that really heavy traction zone, especially in the final sector, you put a lot through the rear tyres, and managing rear degradation is going to be a big issue. Verstappen said in the press conference, when I asked him about that impact here, that the rear tyres aren't exactly on holiday during this race, and to protect the rear tyres you have to push the fronts more, and when you push the fronts, that is what brings them into that window where they start to grain. So that correlation between graining and degradation, track evolution, which there's basically been no track evolution over the course of today, comes together for this fascinating melting pot of factors about how the race is going to be run.
I think key will be those early laps, just to see how bad the tyre graining is. And I think this would be what Lando will want to know straight away. He spoke in Las Vegas, where they were worried about graining would be a problem, proved not to be. But he said, it's my worst nightmare. I don't like a car that understeers. I can't get performance from it. It's not how he ekes lap time out of that car. So if tomorrow turns into a battle of that, looking after that right front, not having the graining, not having the understeer, degradation not getting out of control, then that'll be good news for Lando. But if in those early stages that tyre becomes a problem, management is there, degradation is going for the roof, it's switching to a two-stop, you need to control it, then I think Lando thinking, oh, this isn't a great situation for me.
Exactly, so there's a possibility that he gets beaten by not just Verstappen, but other cars on merit as the pace swings play out. But a second pit stop, if it does shift to a two-stop strategy, is another opportunity for peril, to be undercut, for different things to happen. And this is where we move on to the third problem, which is even if McLaren and Norris and Piastri, because he's still in the fight even though he's an outsider, could run this race as straightforward as possible, they can't, because if Verstappen, assuming Verstappen is still ahead after the first corner and the first lap, because we all know what's going to happen. If Verstappen has control of that race, if he knows that Norris is second or third, what's he going to do, John?
I asked George Russell this in the pin, actually, because we know George Russell likes to stir a little bit of trouble up on Thursday about team orders. So I asked him today, if you're in Max's situation and you're leading the race with Lando and Oscar behind him, what do? He said, you back him up. Absolutely, no doubt.
Yep.
From Max's intention doing that will be to slow up the packs. There's no air for the McLaren drivers to drop into. Potentially those behind can pull the pin, switch to a two-stop, maybe make progress, start undercutting people and moving forwards. That'll be Max's intention. However, that's not how McLaren see it. Andrea Stella thinks actually they have the advantage here. They've got two cars. If Max starts playing games with one of them, if Lando's second or Oscar's second, then they can switch strategy. They can split those cars. They could say to Oscar, look, if you finish in this position with the same one stop, you aren't winning this race, you aren't winning the championship. Do you want to go for the risk? Do you want to go for the two-stop? We'll see what happens, roll the dice. And if I was Oscar, I'd probably do it, because if you don't do it, you've not won the championship. If you do it, there is a chance that results play out, you can win the race, and then maybe something else happens with Lando. I think it's fascinating.
It's absolutely fascinating, because there's the other variable within this is obviously, we've talked about supposed bias, equality, the desire for McLaren to give drivers equal opportunity. Equal opportunity doesn't mean you have to run exactly the same strategy. We saw that back in Hungary. McLaren let Norris roll the dice on what was not the optimal strategy. It won him the race. It could have given him the point swing that could wins in the championship on Sunday. If they are genuinely open to making that strategy switch for Piastri, it is a massive weapon for McLaren to ensure one of its cars wins the World Championship. It would also go some way to robbing anyone of the ammunition to accuse them of bias and not letting Piastri do anything he needs to win the title.
I think there's different needs tomorrow. All Lando needs to do is finish third. The championship's done. His job is very simple. That is the focus. Oscar, third isn't good enough. Second's not good enough unless Lando's out. Then, so he needs to go for the win. He needs to do something different. And I think that opens a door for the flexibility that McLaren can need to potentially stop Max becoming a troublemaker and dropping them into the pack.
It's so well set, because we have Max Verstappen, who's in the best possible position to win the race, Lando Norris, who right now is in the best possible position to win the championship, and Oscar Piastri, who's in the best possible position to pick up the pieces if they drive into each other. It genuinely could barely be better set for tomorrow.